Across the Spider-Verse really shouldn't work, and it's pretty amazing that it does. The original film was groundbreaking, and I don't use that word lightly. When Into the Spider-Verse was first announced, I, like many, was skeptical. This was an animated film from Sony, who at the time had sort of driven this property into the ground, and from an animation studio regarded as one of the worst in the industry. But never underestimate Lord and Miller as the kings of bad ideas. And I mean that in the best way possible. Lord and Miller, for some reason, have this golden touch of taking concepts that are terrible on paper and making them into something that somehow works. A movie based on a near plotless picture book of food raining from the sky, a reboot of an 80s show about cops undercover at a high school starring Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum? I mean, did we think that was going to work? I mean, it's amazing it did. And then we had a sequel to said reboot after miraculously capturing lightning in a bottle that first time around. And a movie based around the biggest corporate toy brand in the world. And yet they still found ways to approach this subject matter in a unique way you wouldn't expect. Now, it's worth noting that Lord and Miller did not direct either Spider-Verse films. They just wrote and produced them. So why do they get so much credit? Because I don't want to devalue the great work of the director teams. Besides their creative DNA being all over these movies, I think it comes down to old-school producer-driven art, which I know just saying that probably elicited a really negative reaction in most of the viewers watching this. Like, no, like, producer executive driven art. But let's look back at the first Disney films. Who are the directors? I'm willing to bet you don't know. Well, we all know who produced them because he built the biggest entertainment empire in the world. In the field of animation, and I'd say especially in the field of animation, it is important not to devalue a producer's ability to impact creative vision and push innovation, especially in regards to technology. Walt Disney did so back in 1926 by creating the first animation with synchronous sound with Steamboat Willie. And then he did so again back in 1937 by creating new cell animation techniques to develop the first commercially successful feature animated movie, Snow White. Next, we have John Lasseter, who reinvented the wheel with the release of Toy Story in 1995 as the first CGI animated film. But since then, the industry really has been sort of stagnating creatively, opting for the Pixar-esque style and even copying their tired narrative trope of, what if this inanimate object had a soul? Or what if this inanimate object had a soul? Or, what if this person had to get home? Or what if this character had to find their way home? It's all pretty well worn out and tired. This is until Lord and Miller again pushed the boundaries of modern animation with the Spider-Verse, a vibrant and uniquely animated film, unlike anything we'd ever seen before, that seems to have just woken the industry out of its long creative slump. And Across the Spider-Verse, they continue pushing boundaries while at the same time heading into more dangerous territory by combining and mixing various animation styles in what could easily have become a very chaotic, clashing mess. Instead, Across the Spider-Verse delivers a movie that embraces that chaotic energy, diving into worlds of different flavors and characters, like Gwen's watercolored world influenced by the character's emotions, or Indian Spider-Man's kind of bold 2D-esque world, or even Spider-Punk's newspaper collage look. Now add in some wildly bombastic yet flowing action that replicates comics in motion. Now add in some on-point comedy with more visual gags than you'll ever be able to catch in one sitting. And then add in one of the longest run times for an animated film ever. You can see all this stuff's piling up quick, all of it threatening to just kind of become so dense that it sort of implodes in on itself like a black hole. But somehow it doesn't. You would think that this would all just get so overwhelming, but the directors take you right up to the edge of when it's going to all become too much of a good thing before reeling you back in again. And they do this with relatable and likable characters. Miles continues to naturally grow into his teenage years, feeling more rebellious in spirit, but still the good-hearted, likable kid from that first movie. His parents are the root of the movie's emotional core, and it's good to actually see some competent parents in a movie who are not either abusive deadbeats or, just dead. Gwen replaces Peter B. Parker as the new deuteragonist. And although it is a shame that Peter doesn't get to do more, the trade-off is Gwen gets a lot more development and really comes into her own while having a cutesy kind of teen will they, won't they with Miles. It's a relationship that has this innocent charm to it, but it works. Even the villain Spot in Spider-Man 2099 gets satisfying backstories and arcs and contrast each other well, as one is this very self-serious anti-hero, and the other is this complete goober that no one takes seriously until it's too late. Although the voice cast does this phenomenal job, enough cannot be said for the animators' work in bringing a sense of realism to these virtual performances, and the character work across these two films. Because when the film threatens to collapse under its own weight, It's these small character moments that creates this solid foundation to repeatedly bring it back from the edge, leaving us with a sense of awe from the sheer scale and creativity rather than, a splitting headache. It's also what saves the movie from feeling really unsatisfying. And this may be a very, very minor spoiler, but the film is a part one of two. There is a difference between a two-parter story and a movie that just gets, split in half. The latter typically can feel really unsatisfying and make the film almost not work as this singular sit-down watch. This typically happens when they're cutting a book in two, like in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2, or Mockingjay Part 1 and 2, or even, the Hobbit trilogy, splitting that into three. They were really going for it, I guess. Or it can lead to the feeling that you haven't really watched a complete story yet, such as in Fast X, where it just kind of, just ends, which carries an even bigger risk here because that movie doesn't even have the next one filmed yet. I won't lie, the ending may make you groan at the end just because, it kind of cuts off, and honestly, you just don't want the movie to be over. And frankly, if that's the worst problem in a 2-hour and 20-minute runtime, then they've done something right. But Across the Spider-Verse does feel satisfying, and it has that feeling of a middle chapter rather than one movie that, has just been kind of cut in two. Mostly because Miles has this satisfying arc from the beginning of the film to the end. You can track his changes as a person from the start to the cliffhanger conclusion. It's a big risk, but it pays off in making you want to see what happens next. Like, now, give me that movie tomorrow. Thank you. In the end, this entire movie could have become this complete, cluster F, with conflicting art styles, over-the-top action, an endless bombardment of jokes that don't mix with the drama, an unsatisfying conclusion. Just all of it could have gone wrong. One piece out of place could have blown it all up. But instead, it's a balanced cocktail that instead pulls you in, and at the end of the film has you asking how they pulled it off. It's a fantastic animated film first, and a great Spider-Man movie second. But most importantly, this franchise continues to push the animation medium forward in interesting new directions, providing that once-in-a-30-year shakeup that often needs to happen. And being here and able to witness it firsthand while sitting in a theater with a big crowd and watching it on the big screen, that is a privilege. Those are just my thoughts on the new Spider-Verse film. If you like it, let me know down in the comments down below, or if you hated it, I guess you could let me know too. But be sure to like and subscribe for more historical film flashbacks and modern movies. Until next time, keep those reels turning. Thank you very much.